Thank you so much, everybody, for being tuned in. This is Ending the Battle of the Sexes discussion, peace versus conflict. And tonight, I'm telling you, I got a great group of men and women of God, and they are going to definitely let you know how they feel, let you know their perspectives, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy this discussion. I'm getting ready to bring them on, and here they come now. Hey everybody, how y'all doing tonight?
Hello.
Fantastic.
All right, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And everybody out there, please let us know how you feel as we're discussing this topic. Let us know if you're feeling our comments. Let us know if you disagree. Definitely let us know how you feel. Put it in the comments. We thank you so much for joining. We thank you so much for being a part of this discussion. And what I desire and what my goal is to bring more of an understanding and for men and women to have better communication so we can bridge that gap of communication and be able to understand each other a lot more so that these relationships can last longer, that lead into engagement to marriage. And so that is my goal. And I'm going to give my guests, we're going to go right into it. I'm going to give my guests a chance to introduce themselves. We're going to start from the top to the bottom. Of course, ladies first, we're going to start with Crystal. And so you can tell the people anything that you'd like to tell them about yourself.
Gosh.
Go ahead and let us know. Go ahead and introduce yourself. And before you do that, Crystal, we do have Gaitha's coming on in a little while. She'll be here with us in just a moment. She's having a few technical difficulties, but she's definitely going to be a part of this discussion as well. But go ahead and introduce yourself, Crystal.
Hey, everybody. I'm Crystal. Some people call me Doc Wise. Some people call me Chocolate Aria from Transforming Moments with Chocolate Aria. I am just glad to be here. I'm a mother of four, minister, a professor, director of using information technology at a little school in the mountains of Tennessee. So thank you for the invitation, and I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely, Crystal. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Gabe.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Gabe. I am just excited to be here. I am a minister as well. I have my own ministry, to Mel. You're my brother. You're my friend. I appreciate you having me here. And also tonight, I'm going to play the role of a chef because it's going to be time to cook. We're going to really just go through some questions and just give you all some good information. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. You know it. Glad to have you, brother. Definitely. And my man, the doctor, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I am Gregory Devon out of Durham, North Carolina. I do pastor a church in Oxford, North Carolina. Prior to the pandemic, I do a lot of events around the triangle in regard to relationships to get people hooked up. So hopefully as it comes to an end, we'll be able to pick back up. Happy to be here.
Absolutely. As always, glad to have you, Pastor Greg, as always. And she is here, the lady of the hour. She has made it on. And go ahead and introduce yourself.
Is my wig on straight? Hello, everybody. I am Gaitha Goddess Robinson. And I guess a little bit about myself. I work at Allen Hospital here in town. I work in the nutrition department. And on YouTube, I have under Gaitha G Music, I have a podcast called Gaitha Goddess Confessions. And I am also a singer, used to be an R&B singer. Now it's strictly contemporary gospel.
Definitely glad to have you on. Definitely glad to have you as a guest. And hey, let's go ahead and get into it. I mean, the time has come, and I know everybody has been anticipating and I have been excited about having this discussion, but we're definitely going to get some understanding, and I'm pretty sure that you're going to enjoy these perspectives. So I'm going to start and go with the first question that I have, and then we're going to go from there and take it from there. But the first question I have for you guys is, most recently or in the past, what happened in your romantic relationship that triggered you to be angry and less peaceful? And I'll repeat it one more time, and anybody can jump in there. most recently or in the past, what happened in your romantic relationship that triggered you to be angry and less peaceful?
I think for a lot of relationships that conflict and trouble arises sometimes as a result of things outside the relationship. I think sometimes we don't sometimes have the coping mechanisms to communicate, to deal with, and to appropriate the correct response. And sometimes this stuff gets miscommunicated because if we stop communicating, then our partner has a problem. You know, if we over communicate the wrong thing, it may sound like blame. I think a lot of times half of the conflict that arises in a relationship has nothing to do with the relationship. It has more to do with our response to outside interferences. I think all of us can recall times in the past where we've had the wrong response to something, which indeed provoked the wrong response to our partner. Because you may have had stress at work or stress in your personal life as an individual, and you bring that to the relationship sometimes, not meaning to. And what happens is the other person does not know what's going on if you didn't tell them. So now we have a problem, but we really don't. And sometimes if that's not talked about, if that's not checked, then you move forward and the problem continues to get worse and worse and worse. And you think that we have a problem. When the reality is it's the me that has an issue.
I would say also, kind of piggybacking off of that, I believe it's also unresolved trauma. And that trauma can happen when you're a child.
Yeah.
It can happen in previous relationships and their wounds. And when we deal with the outcome and what we can see, we don't deal with the root cause of problems and issues and situations. And so therefore we take it from one relationship, work, church,
Mhm.
parental, children relationship, and we carry that into our romantic relationships, and we just keep carrying baggage and we never deal with trauma. So one of the first things I say is sit on somebody's couch or somebody's office and go on to get that trauma dealt with. Stop playing and get it dealt with. And to go back to your question, you asked what, one of the things that I try to do and try to avoid is just being angry and lashing out. I try to figure out what the root cause and where is that coming from. Is it trauma with me? Is it trauma with him? And let's try to deal with it, because we can talk about the situation. We can kind of gloss over the surface of problems, but until we deal with that root cause, it's going to come back up. We're going to face it again, and it might manifest in a different way, but we're going to circle right back around, and you wind up circling the drain, and eventually it'll empty.
Yeah. I would also like to piggyback off that, and just to answer your question, Tamil, in full transparency, I think that for me, instead of getting angry, if things are not dealt with, I just get going. I just there. I say that because you cannot force somebody to deal with trauma. You cannot force somebody that is a full-grown, full-functioning adult to deal with what has been plaguing them up to this point. I've been in several relationships, honestly, and I will say that one thing is a breakdown in communication. When there's a breakdown in communication and what you two expect from one another, I believe you should be able to have a civil adult conversation around it. When you're not able to have a civil adult conversation, many times people will find themselves trying to be in a place where, they're trying to talk about, what bothers them. I think a lot of times when that's not done, people try to avoid that sometimes because they don't like telling people the truth. I do believe that there is a way to tell somebody the truth without them getting offended. However, it's not your responsibility to control the way that they feel. It's your responsibility to control the way that you deliver it. And so for me, really just break down in communication. I select that because everything else, in my opinion, falls underneath that. You have breakdown communication, you have arguments, you have fights. You have some people in relationships do this childish silent treatment where they don't talk to you for 5 days. Listen, hey, you ain't got to talk to me for 5 days, but you ain't going to hear from me again. I promise you that.
Okay, so for me, I try not to, anymore at the stage that I'm at now, I honestly try not to get angry. For myself, I'm a big communicator. Communication is huge for me. And, if there's a breakdown, if I'm trying to communicate and I'm hitting a wall, I will definitely keep trying to, but again, if I keep hitting a wall, if there's nothing I can do and I've done all that I can, I'm gone. I can't make a person communicate. I'm not gonna beg a person to communicate. If it's not there, it's not there.
You're muted, Tamel.
Thank you, Crystal. And I think everybody absolutely makes some great points. I agree with most of everything that everybody said. And I think that we should be asking ourselves some individual questions, such as, am I a difficult person to deal with? I think we got to be honest with that, because some people are just difficult to be difficult, and they just have a very complex attitude and demeanor. And it just depends on who you decide to hook up with or who you decide to link up with, who's going to be understanding of your personality in the way that you truly are. Because I may not be able to deal with somebody's personality in a difficult person, but Gabe might be able to, or maybe Greg might be able to. And so I think that's very important. But we have to really internally take a look at ourselves and say, you know what? I might be just a little bit difficult. And from all the reasons that you guys expressed, trauma, they haven't been healed yet, all of that. And so there are many different reasons, why somebody may be difficult. And ask yourself too, just to get the conversation stirred up just a little bit more, do I talk too much? Do you talk too much? Because some, I mean, you gotta be able to control. And like I said, it's not just you got to look at yourself and ask yourself that am I a mean person when somebody disagrees with me? How do I handle it? Do I handle it correctly? Do I get angry when somebody disagrees with me? Is there a good reason why somebody's disagreeing with me? You really have to ask some internal questions. And before we move on to the second question, I think that it's not always so much, and I say this to the ladies because this is ending the battle of the sexes. So men and women, we have to do a lot better with our communication. But it's not so much always what you say, ladies, but it's how you're saying it. Sometimes the way you say it can be really nasty, with that disposition and shaking your head and pointing your finger. Oh, man, you might be saying the right thing, right? It might be true what you're saying, but with all that attitude and this and that, and oh man, that probably right there, I think is an issue for me sometimes, because I think respect should go both ways, but I just won't be tolerated being talked to any kind of way. Say what you want to say, but it's a way to say it and it's a way to do things. And so
I don't know how they roll their neck, Tamel, because I tried to roll my neck the other day and got a chiropractic adjustment, bro. I'm just gonna give it a buck.
You don't like all that flavor.
You see how I tried to do it. You see my example. I don't know how to do. I couldn't even do it myself.
Well, I tell you this too, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
You talk about the way in which you communicate. I think it's important. Talk about peace versus conflict. Societal norms today are not what they were 25 years ago. And what is viewed today as normal 25 years ago was not. Mm-hmm. That's certain ways in which men and women act today that 20 years ago would be unheard of.
That's true.
with the advances in social media, with reality television, with the Real Housewives of Atlanta and all this stuff, you know, what we see today as normal 20 years ago would be obscene. Now think about the way in which we talk to each other, men and women. You have some people who would say, well, what's wrong with communicating this way? Everyone does it. It's become the norm. And we don't realize that abnormal has become the norm. So some of this conflict that we have goes unchecked and unrecognized because we don't realize it is what you're calling normal that is causing the conflict. And you don't view it as abnormal, so you don't view yourself or this thing as the cause of the conflict because you see it everywhere. You see it on television. You see it in the movies. You see it in other folk relationships. But nobody stops and says, okay, not about normal versus abnormal, but is it effective? How is it impacting my relationship, my friendship? How is it affecting me as a parent, me as a mother, me as a father, me as an uncle, me as a cousin, whatever you are? We don't seek to understand how is your behavior impacting said situation. Whether you see it as normal or abnormal, what is it causing? What is it creating? And what position is it putting you in consistently?
I'll say just one more thing. And we're talking about, really, people just working and dealing with these things. First thing that it takes is, and people don't like this word, but I'm going to say it anyway, accountability. There is a responsibility that you have to where you have to realize, number one, that I have a problem. You have to realize, you have to then figure out what the root of that is. I mean, you may not need to go sit on somebody's couch. You may just need to take some time alone and do some self-reflection. I think many times because people are so afraid of being alone because they're afraid of who they are. They don't even know who they are. In most times they will jump from relationship to relationship, from person to person. And now you're confused. Now you're bewildered. And now you're sitting up here with a bunch of cats trying to figure out, okay, how did this happen? I just got to keep it a buck, that really happens. And I think that the accountability piece is like after you're able to recognize your part in, what is going on and what's happening in your life, then I think you're well on the track towards getting that much needed healing that you need.
Right. So Mel, I wanted to make sure my comment wasn't misconstrued, that trauma happens and it can be something that's devastating. And it can be something that you kind of gloss over. So trauma, I'm not saying that it's a molestation. I'm not saying that it's a rape, but it can be just how somebody speaks or says just some little something, and it causes just a rise in you. And that can go both ways. So just like you said, that communicating a message, it really does not matter a lot about what you say, but how you say it, male and female. How it's communicated, you can be dead right. You could have hit right on their point of their triggers, their trauma, those things that they haven't addressed that they carry and they trigger everybody else at work, in relationships. But you come off with the wrong attitude every single time, they're never going to hear you. Yeah. So stop and think, would I truly want somebody to talk to me in that manner in which I'm talking to someone else, and understand that everybody is a human being. Everybody has things that, they may not know about, they may not have addressed. Yeah. And that we have to communicate, as the Bible says, do everything in love, period. Right. So if it's not being done in love, you need to just quit. You're a loud sounding gong, and I don't want to hear you.
And the church has to understand too, to support your point about this trauma thing, is that everything you can't go to your pastor about.
Right.
Because your pastor might not be trained to help you in that area. You know, trauma is generally defined as a distressing or a disturbing experience. You know, it might be over time, or it could be a moment that changes your life. But the reality is, sometimes because of this traumatic experience, whether it's childhood, young adulthood, or later in your life, sometimes you're unable to move past this point and you don't even know it. You make decisions now based upon how you're impacted by that traumatic experience. Say it was childhood. Some people cannot escape childhood, and they're 25, 35, 40 years old because this experience scarred me so much that now I don't trust anybody.
Mhm.
Now I'm not at peace with me, so I don't have peace to contribute to a friendship, to a relationship, to a marriage, and even being a parent sometimes. Because why? I could not escape that traumatic experience from childhood, and depending upon what demographic you fall in, whether you are a baby boomer, whether you are Generation X or millennial, well, counseling has not always been what it is today, and especially not in our community. I mean, like even now, we still have a problem talking about going to counseling, talking about talking to a therapist. Because why? Because we in the church talking about Jesus, we work it out. Jesus, the Bible says, I can do all things through Christ, who strengthens me. That means that Christ will strengthen you to do what you need to do to help yourself.
Accountability.
It does not mean that he's gonna wave his magic divine wand and everything is okay. No, it means that you have to do your own work to overcome whatever this experience is. Now, everything you decide to do moving forward is not always the result of a traumatic experience. However, it may be, but a bad decision is what it is. And sometimes our experiences, they impact how we think. And sometimes because we cannot think critically, meaning we cannot problem solve, we cannot take a little bit of information, apply it, and figure out something else. You know, that's what's wrong with this millennial generation. They do not know how to think critically. But you know something else that affects peace and conflict? How we're educating these children and these individuals. They don't know, they're not requiring them in school now to do things like word problems, to read and to figure out, should I add, subtract, divide, or multiply? They're not teaching them to look for the key words. Oh, quotient, divide, sum, add. They're not teaching them that. So therefore they approach life, relationships, they don't understand how to even see what the triggers are that are making them spiral out of control or are having these conflicts with everyone. And sometimes we see the world as everything and everyone is against me. So let me attack all of y'all before you attack me. But they don't mean to do it. They don't. They have been trained over time to be this way. And no one has ever talked to them in a rational manner and said, have you ever considered X, Y, and Z? And that's what's wrong with a lot of people, is that the reason that they have so much peace and conflict with people, they have no peace with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally agree.
My God.
Absolutely. That was great. And let's keep talking about this, because I think I don't even have to ask the question, because right now, what we're talking about is the experiences of childhood and the way a person was brought up. Now, do you believe that, and I believe you guys from what you're saying, that do you believe that a person's childhood experiences and the way they were brought up has a lot to do with how they handle conflict?
Yes, absolutely. If I can start, I believe this because when I look at my own childhood, I grew up a certain way where I saw problems handled, X, Y, and Z. And so usually as a child, when you grow up and you see that, then if you haven't been taught another way, then you're going to handle your problems the same way. For example, if you grow up and you have a dad who is a screamer or is a yeller, or if you grew up in an abusive home, then if you haven't learned how to, number one, if you haven't learned how to release that hurt and that trauma, then what's going to happen is you're going to think that that's normal, even though it's dysfunctional, because that's what you were that's the environment that you were brought up in. And so you're going to handle your problems the same way versus if you were a child and you were growing up and, your parent always yelled at you when you got something wrong, or, they belittled you, then and you just shut down. Then typically when you're an adult, if you have not dealt with that, then what's going to happen is when you begin to get in conflict in your relationships and somebody decides to get loud or to turn up on you, then what's going to happen is you're going to get quiet and you're going to shut down. Now, they don't know the trauma that you face if you have not had that conversation. But if you have had that conversation, then you have to worry about, okay, is this something that I am able to deal with? Is this person's childhood something, are these experiences something that I'm able to cope with? Because those things, a lot of times they go unaddressed. A lot of times they go unnoticed. You have people that are 40, 45 years old that legitimately don't know how to communicate effectively because that's just something that they are not used to. And it's a shame. I mean, we can sit there and judge it, but we have to also remember that to everything that we see and that we know, there is a root cause to that.
I wanted to speak about delivery. Tamel, you had said something, primarily to the ladies about, being careful how we say things and the neck rolling and stuff. And there was a relationship that I was in, and okay, the person that I was seeing had been hurt very bad in his previous relationship, and I would notice, that I picked up on the fact that there were certain triggers. I could say something or do something and, it would just trigger him. And, he would just, start, well, this is not what I meant, or I don't want this or whatever. And I would always be very careful to watch my tone. And, I would say to him in a very calm tone, I noticed that when I said this, or I noticed that when I did that, that really upset you. And I just want to let you know, what I meant by this was, when I said this, this is what I mean. And another thing that I picked up on was something I did that in the previous relationship clearly wasn't done. He wasn't respected, because as crazy as it may sound, when I would, do things and say things to make sure that I was being respectful, he didn't know how to receive it because he was not used to receiving that respect. And, he's looking at me crazy like, well, why are you doing this? You don't have to do that. And I explained to him, I know that I don't have to do that, but I choose to do that because I respect you.
Yes.
That delivery, that does go a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to give you guys a few points and a few things to think about is just some things to ponder as we continue on. I was, as I'm listening, I'm always writing too, because sometimes you forget your thoughts, and you guys are saying some really wonderful, some really good things. You can I really do believe that a person's past and how they were brought up does have a lot to do how they handle conflict. It really does. And I'll just use this for an example and let you guys continue. But I'm using personal experiences. I was dating a woman, and every time there was a disagreement or there was an argument, it wasn't always necessarily something that was really devastating, just a disagreement. There would be a lot of cussing and calling me BSS nigga and all that stuff, that kind of stuff. Just using that as an example. So the cussing out and the going from 0 to 100. And I was wondering, why is this woman like this, right? Why is she like this? And, because I don't have to cuss or call you out your name to get my point across. I can say some mean things and don't have to use cussing. So everybody, it just depends on how your delivery is. I mean, anybody can say some mean things and you don't have to cuss. You know how to say some things to get up under people's skin. And that's something too. When somebody is close to you, they know what to say to get up under your skin. They know exactly what to say. And that is the truth. But I heard a conversation on the phone with this particular woman talking to her mother.
Yeah.
And man, she put the phone on speaker and her mother was cussing. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I mean, she was giving her a good cussing, a good like, wow. And I said, you know what? Oh, that's where she gets from. That's how they communicate.
They can go.
And they communicate wrong. Now, I was not brought up like that. There's no way I'll be on the phone. You be and mother, no way. And then, as far as when you have a close personal relationship with the Lord, then, back in the days, I used to use, some profanity once in a while, never in front of my parents, but that's just not the desire of mine, a woman who has a potty mouth. But that's where it comes to your relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. But I just wanted to make that point from using an experience that, definitely. So the way somebody's brought up and, what's happened to them in the past has a lot to do with how they handle conflict. Go ahead. Anybody can jump in there. I just want to make that point.
When you look at the types of conflict that arise in relationships and even sometimes in marriages, a lot of times they can be centered around like 4 things. Like you think a lot of time conflict centers around either criticism, contempt, defensiveness, or stonewalling. Nobody wants to be criticized, but sometimes constructive criticism is necessary. I prefer the word critique. We all need to be critiqued sometimes. We all, even the Bible says it does not yet appear what you shall be. But when Christ returns, you'll see him as it is and be just like him. So all of us are becoming. But the problem is in our becoming, when we're not all that we need to be, and sometimes people try to push us, encourage us into the right direction, we sometimes have a difficulty because we see it as just criticism and don't realize that if you're never criticized, if you're never critiqued, you'll never grow. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even when you think about people being defensive, why are you defensive? Well, people who have a victim mentality are oftentimes what? Defensive. Because they view everything as an attack. And that could go back to, again, past relationship. It could go back to childhood, to anything. Look at stonewalling, shutting down. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we shut down because why? We do not know how to respond, how to act in this situation. When this has been brought to me, I don't know what to say. I don't know when to speak. I don't know how to respond to this set of circumstances. So I just shut down. Well, that's never the way to go, because shutting down does what? Creates more conflict. I mean, even when the term, being in contempt, which is about falling short of expectations. Again, we set sometimes expectations for each other that we do not tell the other person about. So when this person falls short of an unspoken expectation, now I have a problem with you. Even if I have said what I expect and you miss it, now I have a problem with you because you fell short of said expectation. So the issue is not simply that they missed the expectation. The issue is my response to what they missed. Because none of us is perfect. And if all of us spend our time worrying about what somebody else is doing, it's not doing, if we worry about did you dot every I, did you cross every T, then we won't realize unless you with Jesus, nobody
That's
can
right.
meet these expectations that you set. But again, because sometimes we don't look at our lives, like all of us have, backgrounds and whatever, corporate America, ministry, the health field, whatever it is. Wherever we're at, there's always a set or a process that we must follow. If you are in the health field, you got to follow HIPAA guidelines. If you're in ministry, whatever denomination you are, y'all may have a certain process that you do things. If you're in corporate America, you got a whole bunch of processes to follow.
True.
Corporate America says it is never, ever a people problem. It's a process problem. And oftentimes in life, we have a process problem that impacts our relationships, our friendships, our parent-child relationships, because we're not seeing what process am I following. Even sometimes as Christians, we can be overly spiritual and begin to be spooky and not spiritual. And now we apply spooky things to our relationships, personal, professional, romantic. And when you don't see the results, you have what? No peace. So you have conflict. But why? Because you're being spooky and you're not being spiritual. You're looking for God. I'm praying to God that God show me a sign, but you're looking for a burning bush. But you ignored the person who walked into your life and said, gave you a word of encouragement or said something to you that was directly about what you're going through. But because, again, you saw no arm come down out of the sky, the earth did not reel the rock, you don't see it as God speaking to you. It's like the story of the man who's drowning. And he says, I'm not going to worry about it because God going to save me. And a boat comes by.
Yes.
Don't worry about it. God going to save me. A helicopter come by. Don't worry about it. God going to save me. The man drowns, gets to the pearly gates and says, God, why you ain't save me? He said, I sent a boat and a helicopter. And you told him to keep going.
Mhm.
That's how we do in these relationships.
Yep.
We pray for a certain type of woman as a man. God blesses you with it. But now she comes with some things you didn't ask for. Now you say, no, I got conflict now. I wanted her to be this. I didn't ask for that. So you can't compromise? You can't see the 80% that you have and the 20% that you may not like, but she's mostly what you like. Same thing applies to women. You have conflict sometimes over this 20% of this man that you have an issue with. But are you looking at the fact that, man, 80% of the time, he's on it. He's giving me what I want. He's everything I need. But the conflict arises why? Because you did not expect this man to come with what? A voice. You know what's wrong with a lot of women? A lot of women have never heard a man speak. And when this man begins to talk, begins to share what's on his mind, and he's right, she has a problem with it. Why? Because she's been taught, or she believes as on experiences that men don't talk, that men shut down, men can't communicate. Why does she believe that? Because she believes that good communication is about talking. Communication is not even the key, it's comprehension. How much are you comprehending? And we don't realize there are a whole lot of good men out here who they may not use a million words, but when they speak, what they're saying is so worthwhile. But because you have never heard a man speak, you have a problem with this man because you think it's an attack or you think there's something wrong with what he's saying. No, this man is being a leader. This man is being a man. if you have a problem with this man, then what would you have done in Jesus' day when he's telling these parables and he's saying things that nobody's ever heard? He's making the government, give him the side eye. He's turning the world upside down. That's what a man is supposed to do in your life sometimes. Come into your life.
That's right.
Turn some things upside down. Because that's what Jesus did. Is he turned stuff up, even when he was mad, he turned stuff upside down.
Hey, that's a whole word right there, man. And so you're speaking the truth. I feel you on everything that you said. It was a spot on point. Great points. Great points. Anybody want to add to that?
I like to say, find somebody who's willing to unpack your baggage with you and allow you to go through that process and ride. And I say that because sometimes we get in a situation, and somebody made a comment in the chat about it. And they were saying sometimes people who are strong try to force other people to deal with stuff the way they deal with it.
Mhm.
But we have to realize it's okay for you to deal with your stuff how you want to deal with it. And if you're not at the point and the place to really dig in, or we're not on the same page when it comes to issues, it is okay. And it's okay to say we are not compatible and we need to move on and do something different, and not go and dog somebody out, because then that's another conflict. Well, I didn't know. You go tell all your girlfriends, or you go and tell all your dudes, well, they like this and they like that and that. No, you all just were not compatible. You didn't get along, and it's okay, and move on. But when you find somebody who is willing to take the time and say, hey, I know you unpacked your bag, and that first item that came out, it wasn't cute, but I'm willing to sit here and be with you and be what you need to go with, and allow you the space to make a mistake or mess up. And that's okay. And we can go on down the road together. You need to stick with them and don't run them off. But if they want to go on, let them go. Stop trying to hold on to stuff that just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times, and just to piggyback off what you said, we try to hold on to stuff that is clearly not working because we are afraid of being by ourselves. And when we're by our, but if you really think about it, when you're by yourself, you really get a lot of time to do a lot of self-reflection. You get to ask God to show you. I know that a lot of times people, they say, well, God said this, God said that, and that's a beautiful thing. But what is God saying about you? What is God saying about you? And when he talks to you, are you being accountable and allowing him to help you to fix the issues that you have? See, we want to sit down and wait for God to just magically do something. He don't do that. I mean, yeah, you have supernatural intervention, but he also helps you and partners with you in your own deliverance. There's a part that you have to play in your deliverance, in your healing. First thing you have to do, again, is you have to admit that there is a problem. For example, if I fall and I break my leg, God forbid that should ever happen. But in order for me to go to the hospital and get fixed, I have to admit, oh, my leg is broken. I should probably go and get this fixed. And the same thing goes in relationships, in marriages. It's like, and another thing, if I can say this, when somebody comes along, ladies and gentlemen, and they want to, stick with you and help you to unpack your stuff, don't peck at them while they're helping you unpack. Don't attack them while they're helping you unpack, because then it becomes this big old conflict. And now like you were saying, now you've got a whole nother issue that you got to unpack. And so it's like, there's no sense in unpacking stuff out of the bag and then putting other stuff in the bag. You're defeating their purpose.
Right.
And you know what, Gabe? You made me think of something that Pastor R.A. Vernon said.
Mm-hmm.
We sit around and wait for miracles when God has equipped us to do some of this stuff ourselves. And miracle is only supernatural intervention in a situation that we could not possibly handle.
Right.
And so we sit around and we wait for, I need a sign. I need a this. I need that. And God has said, I've given you my word. I've given you therapists. I've given you books. I've given you pastors who talk. And Pastor Greg, you said something. Not every pastor, and I agree with you, not every pastor is equipped to handle therapy.
Yeah.
They're
Yep.
they're not trained.
Right.
And so I've heard it in the past, and this is part of my story. Well, why don't you just go to the pastor? Because I know the pastor has no training.
Okay.
And then also the pastor may not be an impartial person in the situation.
Right.
And sometimes you need to go to somebody that doesn't know anything about either one of you all,
Man.
but that is steeped in the word, that can speak to your very situation and put a finger on it and stay there until we get some deliverance.
Come on now.
They be trying to run it in prophetic conferences, and I ain't got nothing against them. But hey, if you really searching for a prophetic word, look at the chief prophet Jesus and read the Bible. Because think about this. So all of the prophetic words should line up with what has already been written. So somebody can give you a word about your situation, about your relationship, and it can appease your emotions. But listen, if it don't line up with God, he's not obligated to do it.
And something that I've had to learn too, I wanted to just speak real quick about being during the time that you are single. During the time that you are single, we need to make sure that we are complete within ourselves.
Yeah.
And because, so many times I've heard people say, I need someone to complete me. And it's just like, no, when you come into a relationship and especially into a marriage, you need to be complete.
Yeah.
You need to be complete. It's not two halves coming together. It's two complete people coming together.
I totally agree. You guys are dropping some bombs and some jewels as far as what you're saying. I agree with everybody. Everybody has made some wonderful points concerning everything. And once again, I'm always talking about self-introspection because, it's easy to point something out that somebody else is doing. But what about yourself? Take a look at yourself. And that's where having the Spirit of God comes in, and having the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit will speak to you and humble you when you're wrong. So my problem is this, is if an individual can't admit when they're wrong, then we're probably not going to be in a successful relationship, because everybody makes mistakes. We all are trying to be more like Jesus every day. Nobody's arrived. Nobody's perfect. We all have our flaws. And I think that there's a lack of humbleness that takes place. Don't want to admit when you're wrong, that kind of stuff. And, if you are wrong, you're not willing to go to that individual, apologize, and say, you know what, honey, I didn't say that right. I didn't mean that. I'm sorry for doing that. But a lot of people don't do that. Now that can keep a relationship going if people can humble themselves. And that's why I always talk about conflict resolutions. Do you have good conflict resolution skills? I'm not going to be able to be in a romantic relationship with anyone who doesn't have any good conflict resolution skills. And everyone talked about that. How do you get those good conflict resolution skills? How do you learn those? And so some things you have to be healed for you to cry out unto the Lord and get delivered and set free by the power of Jesus. And you got therapists that you can go to and talk to. You got psychologists, people who are professionals that you can go to and talk to. And I don't want to downplay having a good friend that's going to keep it real with you. I think Gabe was talking about accountability. Somebody that's going to say, you know what? Hey, you was wrong. Not always a yes man. Oh yeah, girl. And see that this is it too. This is what the ladies do all the time. Oh girl, you right. Yeah, you telling the truth, girl. Oh my goodness, you take that from him. Are you? But they ain't in a relationship themselves. They ain't in a relationship themselves, but they always got some advice for you. Hey, yeah, girl. Oh, yeah, man, he got to be another foot. They probably handle it a little bit different. So don't be listening to. Make sure that you're being led by the Holy Spirit, and whatever you're feeling, not coming from outside influence. what are you going to do when conflict arises? Not what you get. I know a lot of people go to people who they confide in and trust in, but sometimes those people you're going to ain't giving you the right information. I think Gregory said it. Sometimes your pastor's not even equipped to counsel you or to give you the right advice because they're not trained. Or Crystal was saying that they are not impartial.
Yeah.
So it's so important to have people that you really trust that you can go to and let them know what's going on, and they're going to give you some correct feedback. It may not be positive because, we always want to feel like we're right. Oh, I know I'm right. But when you look at it from a different perspective, and that's the humble, that's the humbleness, the Holy Spirit, your relationship with Christ, your prayer life, what you read from the Word of God as the Word of God instructs you, corrects you. It's important. It's important because sometimes you can't go to man. It's got to be done by the work in the hands of God. And so we talked about a lot of different things. And I don't want to get into anything negative. Now, we know that there are some, there's just certain things that get on our nerves, and I think we kind of, I don't want to go there. And you have to be honest with those things that you can handle. And a lot of us can run down some things that really get on my nerves. And so let me twist it a little bit. Let me kind of bring in a little bit of controversy in here. And I know you guys can handle it because I want us to touch it from every angle. And so, and you don't have to answer if there's not a situation or experience, but what is it so men can know, ladies? And I'll start with the ladies first. What is it, ladies, that men should know that, it gets on your nerves? It doesn't make sense. What is it, ladies, that men do, some men do, that get on your nerves? Maybe one thing, and then we address it, how we can fix it. Go ahead.
Compare you to the last person they've been with, or compare you to somebody that has hurt them or done them wrong. And I'll give an example of myself. My ex-husband, again, he had been through some traumas. He had been hurt in some relationships, and I would try to remind him, and I'm not trying to, say anything negative about him, but I would have to remind him all the time, honey, I'm not this person that hurt you. I'm not the person who did this. I'm not the person who did that. But, he had those things, those hurts that he held on to, and there was a wall built up that I could not get past.
Wow.
That's deep.
For me, it's not being a man of your word. My father and my mother were together until his death. And one of the things that he taught us, and so the good things that can come out of childhood, he taught us your word is bond. Unless you're dead or dying, do what you say you're going to do. So one of the quickest ways for me to hit the bricks and keep it pushing is to tell me one thing and you do something completely opposite, or you don't keep your word.
Yeah.
But I think that can go for men and women.
No, we can take that though. It's about us. Put it on us.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
That was good.
Yeah, that's good. Those are some good things, and I think we need to be aware of some of these things that we may not be aware that we're doing, or that we're doing these things maybe unintentionally, or we may have the right intentions, but action definitely speaks louder than words. And so you can say a lot of things to me, but your action is going to tell the true story of who you are and what you're about. And I like that. Thank you, ladies, because we all want to take these things in and improve and grow. And let's go with the fellas. I mean, what are some things, and maybe one thing that absolutely gets on your nerves with the opposite sex with women?
I would say it is understand that you're not always right. I think we breed and condition women to believe that you're always right. So if there's a problem, it must be the man's fault. And society promotes this belief. You look at these, no offense, these Tyler Perry movies and all these things on television, Lifetime, and all this stuff. it's always a crazy man or a psycho man who's done this, broke your heart. Well, come on now. Or it's a man who's been a suspect husband or a man doing this. And, it's funny, it is, but that's how we approach life, is that we really believe that there is something wrong with men. There's nothing wrong with anybody. There's something wrong sometimes with our perspectives. Our perspectives are flawed sometimes. And this is causing a lot of conflict. And there are a lot of men who don't talk because their woman thinks that she's always right and doesn't value what he has to say.
I like that. I like that right there. That's real. That's good.
That was really great. I'm gonna say this the nicest way that I can.
Oh Lord.
Come on, Gabe.
So, cleanliness, please. Cleanliness. I'm trying not to get triggered. Cleanliness. What do I mean by cleanliness? So, you have got to keep it. Okay, if you invite me over to your place, I'm not saying nothing gonna go down, but if I come to your place and you gotta move stuff over for me to sit down. No. That's not going to work. The cleanliness is so important. I mean, outside of us being in the middle of the pandemic, I mean, if you really think about cleanliness, what you keep your space looking like, a lot of times says a lot about what's going on the inside of you. And so sometimes it doesn't mean that if it's a dirty place that you got a dirty spirit. I'm not saying all that, but it's an area that needs some work. Anybody that knows me knows that I keep my car very, very, very clean. And Tamel, you knew I was going to go here tonight.
Yep.
If you got to move papers and documents and contracts over for me to sit in your car, if you guys say, oh, wait, just put your feet over here. No, I should be able to put my feet anywhere. Cleanliness, I'm sorry. Cleanliness is so important. Like,
You got triggered, y'all.
you have people. Hear me. You have people that try to say, oh, well, I can surely clean the house. And they don't even clean their apartment. They don't even clean their car. You're gonna expect God to bless you with a Maserati, and you can't even clean a Honda Civic.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
1996. Come on. I mean, if I gotta walk and you gotta come over and get in your car and then you gotta open my door from the inside because I can't open the door. Are you serious? I'm sorry. I know I sound triggered and I'm sweating, but I've had some pretty traumatic experience. You ain't got no home training.
That's obvious.
You are trifling, and you will be alone. So,
Oh, mercy. Don't put them alone now. They may not be with you,
until
Gabe.
you get
They just
delivered.
won't be alone.
Don't
now.
forget about the cats though. She alone with all them cats.
Yeah.
I still love you though.
Man, that's really real. That's really real. You talk yeah, I feel you on that, man. I had one or two myself, man. So I feel where you're coming from. And you're kind of nasty. If they got roaches in their car, they're real nasty. They are real nasty. They got roaches in their car. Man, and I've seen it all, my brother. And I've seen it all. I've seen it all.
Oh Lord.
So, definitely no man likes a nasty woman. You know what? Whenever I visit a woman's house and they invite me over, what I look to see that is clean, if that kitchen is clean and if that bathroom is clean. If that bathroom is nasty and if that kitchen is nasty and pots and pans filled up in a sink, I ain't going to be able to do it.
Maybe
I already know. I ain't going to be able to do it.
Wow.
But that is crazy. That is crazy. That is crazy. It's real though. And also, let's not go down. I'll stop. Look, as men and women, let's keep our bodies clean and fresh too. Nobody wants a bad musty and stinking, wash up, clean up, take a shower consistently every day. That's an issue too. That can keep some peace in a relationship too if you keep yourself clean.
Yep. Let that water wash over you.
You're gonna try to go out on a date and you got on and you've been working all day and then you're gonna try to spray some Axe on like that's like, first of all, that's not garbage anyway. Come on, man.
Must
Some real stuff, man.
Must and funk, it don't mix.
That's of the devil. I'm triggered. I'm sorry. Like,
We're having deliverance service right after this just for Gabe.
Oh my goodness.
But that was funny that you said that because I've experienced the exact same thing. I get in somebody's car and I'm like, oh, we were going on a date. But I can't put my feet in the car.
Oh, it's nervous.
People get in my car, and I'm like, and now I believe, and I bring it all in to say this: it's all about good stewardship, right? Like good stewardship is something that it's more than just your money. It's more than just your home. Being a good steward over your clothes and stuff like that. You got to be a good steward over your body. That's the temple of the Holy Spirit.
Man.
So for me, it's like, sometimes, and you got to be a good steward over your car too, because I'm not trying to get in your car and get triggered if I'm trying to get some Red Robin or something. Like, and then people ride, and then what's weird is sometimes people ride in my car to Mel, and they look and they see like there ain't nothing in the back seat, everything vacuumed out, it smell real nice. They're like, are you the only one that drive here? Nope, but I know how to keep my car clean. Okay.
So Gabe, you gonna help her get it together because there are some women, and this is real, y'all. This is really real. There are some women who need assistance with that. I'm just keeping it real. Without divulging too much, I was in a situation where I was forced to keep up the vehicles. Yeah. Come on, Gabe. Maybe she needs you to step up and say, hey, I'm gonna help you out on this one.
To be quite honest, I'm gonna be 100% transparent with you. And I've always been this way. If they're willing to learn and they're willing to listen, I'm willing to help. Okay. Because I don't want to feel like if I'm helping that I'm like overstepping my boundaries.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like I am forcing you to be something that you're not. Now, if you want some help, I can help you. I will show you how to clean out the inside of your car. I will show you how to run it through the car wash and get the tires shined and everything. And the next time I come and sit in your car, it better be clean. Amen.
I'm so weak. I'm weak. But what if her daddy did that while she was growing up and she kept the house clean, the food on the table, everything was good, but that car, because her daddy always did it, she never had to do it.
Okay. Well, I think that
take it.
Kind of like Pastor Greg was saying, that 80%, right? We can focus on that 80%. And if the car is within the 20%, I'm willing to work with it. I just gotta do like they do on one of those hoarder shows. I gotta go in and I gotta assess the damage and figure out, okay, how long has this been going on? And maybe you just had a busy week or something like that, or is this a habit that we gotta bind Satan or something?
Well, I think part of partnership in a relationship is sometimes just doing what needs to be done. When you talked about the whole thing about with the car, to the defense of women, I'll say this. There are lots of women who keep messy cars, but their house is immaculate. And that is because a lot of women live in their car. You know, they got an emergency pack in the car. They got, you know, extra shoes in the car. They got to have, you know, Junior's sneakers in the trunk. You know what I'm saying? Because they have all these different responsibilities. And sometimes women operate out of convenience. It's more convenient for me to have all these things in my car that when I need them, they're there. I won't forget. Now, to the man's point, to men's point, we don't always want to see that. The compromise has to be in, you could help her clean the car. My thing is this. I was raised by an old school man. My father now is 66 years old. And I had a kind of father who would take your car, put gas in it, take your car and wash it, take your car, get the oil change, and you just drive mine till I get back. You know, so my thing is, I think every woman to a certain degree wants to be taken care of in these small ways that are really big things. They want a man to. It's not just about leadership. It's really more so about reliability. I can rely on him to get these things done. And the greatest trait a man can have is what? Reliability. When a woman knows she can rely on you to hold things down, get things done, that might be the thing that encourages her to be a little bit more neater with her car, because she knows the amount of time, to Gabe's point, that you spent putting it all on them time, you know, shining that dashboard up, cleaning those cup holders out. You know what I'm saying? Getting those door jams, what none of us seem to want to get. When she knows, you know what? My sweetie pie spent a whole 2 hours last weekend getting my car, you know, doing my car itself. That might make her think, let me not leave this Big Mac wrapper in this car. Let me tell my daughter or my son, don't you drop those fries in this car. Your daddy, you know, just spend his time cleaning this car. It might make her a little bit more sensitive now. Because why? Again, to Gabe's point, she knows this triggers my sweetheart. He does not like messy things. So let me show my appreciation by not just saying thank you, but actually appreciating the work that he's done to take care of this thing. And let me be a little bit more sensitive, because what? Next Saturday, the same thing again. He's going to take my car and clean it out. But now, women, ladies, hear me clearly, you have to allow a man to do certain things. You have to allow yourself to be uncomfortable in letting him into your mess, that he can help you be better. And the same thing goes for men in other ways. You know, we have to humble ourselves and allow her to assist her in the areas that, you know, we need help in. Because again, at the end of the day, if two shall become one, then that means we got to be in this thing together and really understand what partnership is really all about, and what taking care of each other is really all about. Because we both want certain things, we want it different ways, and sometimes to avoid future conflict, simple things, this car thing, how we handle that, take the same attitude into how you handle other stuff in your relationship. Appreciate what the other brings. And don't worry about, you know, we don't have to think the same. Just think together.
Yes. I am a very reasonable person to get along with, and I will help you with your car. I feel convicted.
We don't want to win your car.
Man, Pastor Graydon brought conviction. Man, that's good. No, everything Pastor Greg said was on point, and that's real. You know, we do have to help one another, and where we are weak in some areas, that person can help us to do better, and we can be strong in certain areas. You know, we can encourage and motivate each other to do better in the areas that we want to see improvement in. And so I think, you know, what everybody said was on point, and I know it was comical, it's funny, but it's real. It's real. This is real life. These are real issues. And so we want to make sure that we're tackling these things and that we're aware of some of these things that can cause some issues. And so I want to give you guys a chance. This is the last question for the night. And I want you to, you know, to tell me, you know, what you think, what you feel, and then we go into the ending of just letting people know how they can get a hold of you. But the last question is, and so we talked about some of the things that we dislike, that we don't like, and, you know, some of the experiences we had with non-peaceful situations and conflict. And so how do we, as men and women, how do we maintain more peace in our romantic relationships? And just to kind of bring it all together, what are some good methods or tools that both men and women can use in romantic relationships to kind of deal with and handle each other, you know, when we're angry, so we can keep a peaceful relationship? So anybody can jump in here at any time, but how can we as men and women do better in this area, as far as what are some methods and tools? What can we do to improve peace in our relationships, or to have more peace instead of conflict?
So if I can go ahead and just lead off on this one, I think, Tamel, that one thing that we can do as men and women is very simple. Stop fighting with each other. You know, a lot of times when we get into relationships with people, and I've seen this a lot in the Christian community, we say, oh, well, God put us together. Okay, that's a beautiful thing. That's a lovely thing. Okay, he put you together. How do you stay together? You gotta stop out. You gotta find some kind of common ground. What I have seen many times, and even in my own experiences, is that in relationships where people are not healed and people don't have an identity outside of that, they'll tend to cling to you. And then when you want to cling to them, then it's just like one over one thing. Everybody's trying to one up each other. And it's like, that's really not what relationships are about. A lot of times it results in, you know, somebody having the dominant role, somebody having the submissive role. And I think even around those two words there are huge misconceptions. Because really, number one, you're not really to submit to a boyfriend. The Bible says submit to a husband. And so really what submission is that you're coming underneath the assignment that God has given to the man. Now, let's go back to the question. You every time people fight, you got to think about it like this. When we get into arguments with people, there's a part of us sometimes that really has somewhat of a disdain for that person, or like we feel some type of way. We don't like the way that we were talked to. We don't like what was said. And, you know, really another thing that I will say is that, you know, a lot of times, and I'll just speak from this from the perspective of a man, you know, men just want cooperation. I mean, it's like, hey, you know, if you can trust me, if you trust the God in me, then let me lead you. You know, if you trust that I was sent by God, and if God is your father and God is my father, then if he has given me a leadership position, then you should allow me to lead you. And yeah, you know, that doesn't mean you don't have a say so. That doesn't mean you can't like say anything. That's not what that means. But you know, we've seen often where people begin to become offended, you know, when they feel like they're in a subservient role, and that's really not the case. I think your second question, Tamel, you said, what are some good methods or tools that both men and women can use in romantic relationships to deal and handle with each other when they're angry? Was that right?
Yes, sir.
Number one, I'll give you three. Number one, learn how to communicate. You know, everybody communicates differently. You just got to figure out what works best for you and your partner. You also just have to figure out how to do things God's way and not your own. Number two, I will say that another tool is, don't be afraid to kind of piggybacking off communication. Don't be afraid to tell the truth. Again, there's a right way to tell the truth and a wrong way to tell the truth. There's a positive way to tell the truth. There's a negative way to tell the truth. A lot of times, again, people are afraid to tell the truth because they are too caught up in what people have to say and how people think about them afterwards. And you actually be surprised for you men that are afraid to tell the truth. If you tell the truth and you tell the truth in love because you actually care about that person, that woman may be mad at you for a day or two or five or whatever, but she's going to have a lot of respect for you. I guarantee it. For women, if you're afraid to tell the truth to a man about how you feel, it's like, okay, if you tell the truth, he will know how to handle you. Instead of saying, hey, what's wrong? Oh, nothing's wrong. Like, that doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
It's like, it's all, and I'm going to let you guys finish because I'm going to go eat me a hamburger or something. But like, when you look at telling the truth, if I tell the truth, I'm communicating that I care so much about this person to where I want to make this actually work. We should get tired of, having somebody show up different to the Thanksgiving dinner every single year. Just a thought.
Let me say this right quick. I'm gonna give you 10 things real quick.
Yes, sir.
Help us.
Yes, sir.
Conflict. And so get your pen and your paper. Number one, be direct. Number two, talk about how you feel without blaming your partner. Number three, never say never or always. Number four, pick your battles. Number five, really listen to your partner. 6, don't automatically object to your partner's complaints. I'm going to say it again. Don't automatically object to your partner's complaints. Number 7, take a different perspective. Number 8, do not allow contempt for your partner. Number 9, don't get overwhelmed with negativity. Number 10, know when it's time or a timeout. Let me go back to number 6. Don't automatically object to your partner's complaints. So often when something is brought to us, we automatically object because we do not want to sometimes face the ugly truth about ourselves. Biggie Small said it best. I could be as good as the best of them, but as bad as the worst. So don't test me. You better move over. The Apostle Paul said what? When I wouldn't do good,
yes, sir.
However you want to take it, there's hip hop and there's the Bible. My thing is this. All of us don't understand not just about ourselves, but the other person. People do not just need you to love the part of a person that you need. You must love the part of the person that needs you. And that is difficult, to love on the part of a person that is in conflict or contrast with you. But sometimes that is the part of them that they need you to love on. Sometimes that's the reason God brought you into their life, was to help them with that, to love that part of them. What I said about the perspective thing, understand that so much conflict comes about. Why? Because we do not realize that perspective and opinion is two different things. Everybody has an opinion. An opinion is a fart in the whirlwind. Don't mean nothing. But a perspective is rooted and grounded in something and can be explained, can be proven. If you coming from this way and me from that way, and I put the number 6 in the middle of us. To you, it's 9. To me, it's 6. Who's wrong?
Neither one.
Exactly. And sometimes in relationships and conflict, just because you're right does not make me wrong.
Right.
And we don't understand that we can both be right sometimes, but you're looking for them to be wrong. So you're not hearing anything that they're saying. They're not giving you their opinion. They're speaking perspective. But sometimes we are so stuck
on our own way of doing things, our own perspective, that we don't realize just how much we're not listening. We think that communication is talking. No, it's talking, listening, and reflecting. If you don't reflect, you won't know how to respond. So you will communicate ineffectively. You know, we talk about listening to your partner. You cannot just listen to reply. You know what I'm saying? You must listen to understand. And so many of us, we're just waiting for an opportunity to speak that you are not comprehending. You're not understanding what's being said. So your reply is way off because you heard every other word that you did not like, but you are not filling the blanks in with what God really needs for you to hear. Therefore, you're misinterpreting everything that you are saying. And I'm gonna end here. Number 2 was talk about how you feel without blaming your partner. Stop holding other people responsible for how you feel. Your feelings are your feelings. Your feelings, although they may not always be rational, they're real. But they are not this person's fault. No, children blame stuff on other folks. Children blame how they feel on other folks. Adults internalize, rationalize, and reason with themselves. And they say, how did I come to this lot in life? How did I reach this conclusion? How did I get here? Why do I feel this way? No one said this to me, yet I find myself feeling like this. Why? Is there an insecurity? Do you have the right view of who you are? Do you know who you are? You must ask yourself those important questions to figure out, am I really me? The me I'm supposed to be? Or have I just settled for what comes easy to me? You can learn to do those things. That'll be the beginning of you understanding how to resolve conflict, and even then, how to avoid future conflict in the same area.
I was looking around for my bag because it looked like Gabe and Pastor Greg came and got my bag of stuff. I was going to say something similar. We have to actively listen.
That's right.
A lot of times we're ready and formulating our response, and they hadn't even finished what they were saying. And so we're responding to a tidbit of what they said, and we heard nothing. So we heard 20% of what they said, and we're responding to 20% when the 80% was the meat of what they were trying to tell you.
Yep.
And so we have to stop and actively listen and focus so that we can respond strategically, in love, and correctly.
Yep.
Another thing, the Bible tells us to have wise counsel. Not all counsel is wise. You can hang out with your friends, but if they're not going anywhere, you might need to shift just a little bit and go get you some more. And there's nothing wrong with that. But going back to Tamel's point, he was saying that, you know, sometimes they tell you, you need to do this, you need to do that. But if they're not wise counsel, if you wouldn't want them telling your sister or your children that same piece of advice, then you need to go find somebody else to help you. And another thing in relationships, I think we need to find we need to find out. And I know some folks don't buy into this, but I've found that it actually is true. It goes back to communication, but we need to find out what our love languages are.
Come on now.
Nice.
It's not just one. It's not just one. Usually it's two that are the top. And then we have some that are, you know, subcategories. But a man could be doing all, a woman could be doing all that they feel that they can do to communicate that they actually love you, they care about you, they want the best for you, and you'll never receive it because it's not your love language.
Yep.
And then if you want to go on that journey and you do want to find out what your love language is, don't be selfish. What do I mean by that? Your primary love language can't be what you speak to your partner. You have to endeavor, if you truly love them, endeavor to speak their language. If theirs is quality time, turn that doggone phone off. Stop every.
Yes.
Message came in while you were talking to her or to him, that message will be there when you finish. And everything. You know what? If we still had landlines, I think a lot of our problems would be solved.
Wow.
With dial up, landlines and dial up. Because if you're on the internet, you can't be on the phone. And dial up, if one person on the line, you can't be on the line too. So we gotta focus and have quality time where we're spending time, because quantity is not the same. I can go to 100 football games with you, but if I'm talking to my girlfriends the whole time and never tuned in with you, we are not doing anything but going out with my girlfriends.
Yeah.
True.
So find that love language, speak that love language, and attend to them. Take care of home. And as Gabe said, yeah, keep it clean. that really does go for men and women. Because I walked into some situations, and the first thing I did, because I did it out of love, just for another human being, I just went in and I started cleaning because I couldn't stay there.
You better than me. I would have roasted them while I clean.
No, because I would, you know what? Because, and the reason why I did engage is because I knew that person's situation. It was more than just an unclean place. Like you said, the outward expression represents something on the inside. And that person I knew had some stuff on the inside that they were going through. And I just didn't want to leave them in that place. So we just have to, wherever, and whatever we can tolerate. But see, I could unpack that baggage, and I was okay with that.
Okay.
That was a baggage item that I could deal with, and not everybody can. Hey, some situation, I'm like, hey, I can't. You doing something I can't even deal with. But we have to actively listen to respond to what they're actually saying. Don't take everything personal. Learn each other's love languages, and be kind. You can have a genuine conversation about something, and you can get more out of a conversation than you can out of screaming, yelling, throwing stuff, putting somebody out. You in the doghouse, go outside, go sit in the garage. I'm going to get in the car and I'm driving 50 miles down the road, and I'll be back when I get over it. And you could have solved it in a 10-minute effective conversation where you sat down and you looked at each other and actually talked about the real problem and dealt with it.
But they here wasting gas money, man. They over here wasting gas.
Oh, that's another problem. What you doing? Get out my purse. You mess with
I want to just
money.
read this comment if I can. Michael T. Bell says, "Stop hearing something I did not say. This is not a twister with my words. Let us focus and hear one another." And so I just thought about this real quick. The word tells us, let every man be quick to hear and slow to speak and slow to anger. I believe that anecdote there is the key to a successful relationship. That's all I want to say.
I just wanted to expound on one thing, and the one of the main things for me, one of the biggest things for myself that I had to learn is, again, the listening, and not just listening to words, but listening to what is unspoken, listening to body language, listening to triggers. And for example, as I spoke of the gentleman before that I had dated, if I wasn't actively listening, I may not have noticed those triggers. I may not have noticed the things that I did or said that upset him. So you really have to listen, of course, listen to words, but listen beyond words. Listen to what is really unspoken. Look more, take a more in-depth look when someone is speaking to you and sharing. And again, most importantly, really communicate. Communication is key. Communication is key in any relationship, in any marriage. It's of the utmost importance. Communicate.
I want to throw a virtual hanky at you, sister.
Yeah. I mean, everything that you guys said. I mean, ladies and gentlemen who are tuned in, you got to give these men and women some love. I mean, put your thumbs up, put your clapping hands in the comments, because I think they really gave you some really great perspectives and thoughts, some things for us all to definitely think about. And I am piggybacking actually off of everything that everybody said, but I think it's important that we learn better conflict resolution skills. I think that's important. I think also that we need to make sure that we are healed before even entering into a romantic relationship. I think that's very important.
Yes.
And also, we need to get therapy if necessary. I think it's a wonderful tool. I know in the Black community, a lot of people don't believe in therapy, but I think it can be a very, very helpful tool to help you get through some of those past issues or some of the things that you're facing. And of course, number one, you definitely have to establish a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And sometimes it takes a spiritual healing and deliverance that has to take place, but God has given us some other tools along with therapy and some self-introspection. And so I also feel that if you can't be yourself in a relationship and you can't be your true character, if you can't express your true emotion, and if you can't express your ideas, maybe you're not with the right person.
Right.
Because there's going to be people who are going to disagree with your perspectives. They're not going to always agree. But I always say this: if I can look at a woman and I can see her flaws, and at the end of the day, I can say, you know what, I don't like that about her, but you know what? I can deal with that. I can deal with her flaws. And she's a great person. She's a wonderful person. I feel like we can move forward. But if you look at a person's flaws and say, wait a minute, now I ain't gonna be able to handle, I ain't gonna be able to deal with that. Be honest. And that's the key. Be honest. And I like what everybody said, and I like what Crystal said when she was just saying, if the relationship is not working out, don't try to prolong it. And I think that's human nature, because you may truly love somebody. You may truly love and care about somebody. But when you look at the relationship in its entirety, and after you've had the conversations, and after you still having conflict and unable to resolve that conflict and have peace, then it's time to move on and let that person go. And I think sometimes we just stay a little bit longer in relationships than we should. And then as we continue on, we put ourselves in worse situations. And then we're in the same position, sad, busted, and disgusted. And we need to move past that feeling and that emotion in relationships. And so I think what you said too, and I'll leave it there and let you guys tell how people can get a hold of you. But sometimes we as men and women, we read in between lines that are not there.
Ooh.
You're trying to read in between the line and figure out something that you're thinking something, and there's things going on in your mind that you think a person feels and that they think, and they don't even think that. They don't even feel that way, but it's all in your mind. You're reading in between lines that's not there. The truth is the truth, and what they said and what they told you is how they feel. And that's where that comes into active listening. Like, everybody dropped these wonderful points. And so I'll leave it there. And I'll say this last thing: feelings are real, but feelings are not facts. So get an understanding of one another. Feelings are real, but they are not facts. Romantic relationships, in any relationship, let's talk to one another and get an understanding of how we really feel. Yes. On the things that's important to us to keep a relationship going. And all right, ladies and gentlemen.
I was like that disruptive church member that get up just run circles around the church, man. Sorry, my bad.
Definitely, you guys can introduce yourselves. I think I'm gonna start at the top again. I mean, as far as to let everybody know how they can connect with you and how they can get a hold of you. Go ahead, Crystal. We'll start with you, Crystal.
Okay. So you can find me on Facebook, Crystal Danita. I have a podcast that I'm reviving. It's Transparent Moments with Chocolate Aria, and my co-host B as in the letter B. We have a Facebook page, and we have the podcast where we talk about everything. A lot of things that the church won't talk about. And we're very transparent in our viewpoints from the perspective of the word. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on IG, LinkedIn, I'm Dr. Crystal Young. So anywhere, any of those, you can find me. I'm there.
Yeah.
Again, I'm Gregory Devon out of Durham, North Carolina. You can reach me on Facebook, Gregory Devon, Instagram, Gregory_Devon, Twitter @Gregory Devon. I would love to connect. I love conversing about lots of different topics. I thoroughly enjoyed sharing the panel with you guys today. God bless each of you. We'll talk soon.
You were Gaither. It don't matter. You were Gaither.
Okay. So my name is Gabriel. I am in Dallas, Texas. You can reach me on Facebook, Gabe Abram. Instagram, Gabe Mustard. Don't ask. Somebody that I work with told me I look like DJ Mustard. I really don't, but you can also reach me. I would say you can reach me on Twitter, but I got kicked off Twitter 4 times. But Facebook is the best way to get a hold of me. You can also get a hold of me at Texas Roadhouse. I have a ministry, and so we do a lot of. I do Bible study every other Friday. We keep it focused simply on the ministry of Jesus Christ and really talk about applicable steps as to what we can do in order to improve our Christian walk.
Beautiful.
And again, I am Gaither Goddess Robinson, and that's how I can be found on Facebook through Gaither Goddess Robinson. And let's see, for my music, it's also under Gaither Goddess Robinson, and I can be found on all streaming platforms. And please do remember that now I used to sing R&B music before I started doing what I was supposed to be doing in the first place, which is singing contemporary gospel. So you might run into some of that. So, and also I have my podcast, Gaither Goddess Robinson, on YouTube, and you can find me under Gaither G Music on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, I want to thank you guys so much. Thank you so much for being tuned. Then everybody that's watched, thank you so much for taking your time out to listen to our perspectives and to listen to everything that we had to say. And thank you everybody who's been tuned in and has been, with us, from start to finish and just coming in. We appreciate you joining the broadcast. And I am Elder Tamel Brown of Fruit Bear Ministries. Also, I am a singer-songwriter as well, Tamel Monday Music. And get ready for that single. It's All About You coming February 17th, 2022. It's a banger. It's a banger. And so we're going to be praising God and we're going to be two-stepping at the same time. And so definitely check it out on Spotify, Amazon Music, and it's going to be on all the music streaming sites. And so this is a part of my ministry as well. I do live discussions, and also I have a podcast on Spotify as well that's going to be taking place in a week or so. And so God is doing some wonderful and great things. And once again, I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining. Crystal, I don't know where Gregory went, but Pastor Gregory, thank you, sir. Thank you. Gaither, thank you, Gabe. I appreciate you guys. And hey, I think that's it. And so I love you all with the love of the Lord Jesus. And let's continue to have these conversations, and let's try to be more understanding, and let's bridge that gap of communication between men and women. All right. God bless. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Peace, everybody.